Penny Arcade's PAX West is coming up soon, and that includes their Acquisitions Incorporated live show, which Holly Conrad is going to be on. I talked to Chris Perkins and Jerry Holkins about how they managed to move her character from Dice Camera Action to Acquisitions Incorporated.
Yes, now that took a little bit of logistic legerdemain to make that work, because Holly's character, Strix, is a tiefling sorcerer, and at the end of season 2 of Waffle Crew, she disappears and reappears on the deck of an Acquisitions Incorporated airship, having been summoned by Omen Dran, the CEO of Acquisitions Inc., using an infernal contract that he purchased at a bargain price of 9 gold pieces and change.
Because of course Strix would be bought for 9 gold.
Right, exactly.
And the way I talked to Chris Perkins about it was that it was sort of like bundled mortgages or something. Like eventually it's like you just bundle a bunch of these contracts together and it's greater value, and then you sell that on. So I was able to get, functionally speaking, like a spiritual contract for Strix.
And she's just one of many descendants of this. And an ancient contract has been rolling around in the plains for a long time, tied to that family and devils. And just like companies swoop in to buy debt, Omen swooped in and bought a bunch of old contracts, and this was one of them.
That's so awesome.
I had met Holly 1,000 years ago, probably, at a PAX. I think it was a PAX West. She was cosplaying as Shepard, and I think that she was actually cosplaying, if I recall correctly, she was there under official. She was there as an official cosplayer for BioWare, and I remember when I had seen her and we had met, and I had come away with a super good impression, and then I had seen her later. And we were talking for a little bit, and then she's like, "Oh, I gotta go," and I'm like, "No problem." And then she just gets up on stage, like she was at a stage, and then she gets up on stage, and then the cameras come out, and I was like, "She is a big fucking deal." I was like, "Oh shit!" You know how it is. You meet people who you get along with, and but you don't necessarily, you're sort of in a shared context, and then you see them in their own context, and you're just like, "Holy shit!" I just met a really cool person.
When your players know their characters so well, they don't have to think long and hard about what their characters are going to do, so they're sort of pushing at the boundaries of the adventure to see where they can poke holes.
First of all, he's willing to go with whatever you want to do, and that's a lot of fun, especially for the type of D&D that we play as AC Inc.
They keep me on my toes because I have to be able to move with them and convince them that I've thought about all the things that they're poking at, all the directions, when I haven't really thought about them at all. So I try to trick them into thinking I know more about what's going to happen than they do, and it turns out to be complete bullshit most of the time. Jerry is particularly fun to play with because he empathetically has the DM gene, so he has a tremendous amount of empathy for anybody who's sitting in the DM chair. So I think you can sense on some level when I'm steering the party to do something that he sort of helps me guide the characters in that direction.
I don't know. I'm the sort of player that is like an adjunct DM. I'm always trying to describe things, and that's just my normal mode.
Because he trusts my DMing instincts, and he knows as a DM, were he to do the contrary, it would make my life infinitely more difficult. So it is a blessing more than it is a curse to have another DM as a player.
What does it feel like when you first get on stage? What is the first few seconds before you get on stage and once you're there?
Terrifying.
Do I like the energy of the crowd? Yeah, I do. When I'm aware of the crowd, it's a great boon to have that energy there. And I usually, over the course of a typical live game, forget that the crowd is there about 72 times. I forget they're there, and then there'll be laughter, or somebody will shout from the audience like, "Oh, right, there's people watching. Oh, God, I hope I'm good."
I've never gotten used to it. You'd think, I've been doing Penny Arcade for, next year it'll be a full 20 years. every time I have to go on stage, it's the first time for the most part. Eventually, I can just space out enough so that I don't have to experience time in a linear way. I can just kind of float along with it, and then when I leave the stage, I'm like, that was an hour, that was 2 hours. After an Act 8 game, I'm surprised to learn that, 2.5 or 3 hours have passed, just because I haven't experienced it moment to moment at all. I'm just completely just like riding the time from beginning to end, just sort of trying to float along with it and react to things in real time.